Introduction to Advanced Electricity and Magnetism. In this lecture, we will learn about the minimum mathematics that you must know before starting this particular course. The first thing that we will concentrate on is a gradient of a scalar function. So let us see what the gradient of a scalar function mean. Now, this particular thing, gradient of a scalar function, will give you a vector. For example, consider a scalar function. This scalar function that you see here represents the equation for a system of spheres. Let me draw them. So you can see in this diagram we have a system of spheres, and this system of spheres is represented by this scalar equation. Now what happens when we act gradient on S? So let us do the mathematics and then we'll interpret the physical meaning of gradient. So in this equation you see I have acted the gradient on the scalar function S, and this scalar function X represents a system of sphere. Let us see when we act the gradient what answer do we get. Please understand that the del by del x will act only on x square because there are no other terms in x square. Okay. Similarly, del by del y will act on y square and del by del z will act on z square. All the del by del x, del by del y and del by del z, when they will act on it, since the r is constant, so it will be 0. So let us see what do we get. So this is quite simple, and when we take 2 common, we get nothing but r vector. Agreed? We get the r vector. So what is r vector? R vector can be written as 2, the magnitude of r, okay, and the r cap, the direction of radial cap. Now we know that r vector is xi plus yi plus zj that you can zk that you can see from here. Agreed? So what is the physical meaning of gradient? So gradient on a scalar function, that scalar function represented a system of sphere, gave us an answer equals to 2r and r cap. So what is the direction of r cap? Please see that the direction of r cap is in the radial direction. Agreed? Now, so what does gradient of a scalar function suggest? Gradient of a scalar function suggests the direction in which greatest rate of change of occurs. This is the physical meaning of gradient. Consider on this sphere, so this sphere is maintained at a temperature T1 and this sphere is maintained at a temperature T2. The greatest rate in change of temperature will occur only when you move in the radial direction. Okay, and that greatest rate of change of direction is already represented by gradient. Now let us see what happens when we apply gradient on a potential. In electrodynamics, you have studied that electric field and electric potential are represented as, so this is how they are represented. So what is the meaning of this? The meaning of this is that if you have a point charge or a source charge whose value is q, then the electric field at any distance r can be found out by using the formula of electric field. Now there is something called as electrostatic potential, okay, which is related to work done. But our aim here is to see how gradient of this potential will give us our electric field. However, there will be an extra minus sign. Now question is, since the V depends on radial vector r, I cannot use the Cartesian form of the gradient. I need to use the spherical polar form of the gradient. So let us see how the gradient is written in the spherical polar coordinate system. So gradient is written as, so this is how gradient is written in the spherical polar coordinate system. But we know that the V depends only on the radial vector r. So if I can write gradient of V So what I'll do is I'll write here gradient of vector v. Okay, so what do I get? So when I act the gradient on v, but you know that v is a function of r, so it is not a function of either theta or phi. So gradient of v will be, just put v's all around here, and since v is not a function of phi, so dv by d phi is 0. Since v is not a function of theta, so dv by d theta is 0. So what am I left with? I am left with gradient of v as the direction r cap del v by del r. Agreed? So let us see what, when we put the value of v in this form, what do we get? So this is my v. Now d by dr acts only on 1 by r, rest all are constant, so I will get a value of minus r cap 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q by r square. So you can see that if I take a minus of gradient of v, I'll get a plus sign here. So in conclusion, minus of gradient of the scalar function potential, which is a function of r, gives me my electric field. So this is the application of gradient in electrostatics. Given a particular potential, if you take the gradient of that potential with a minus sign, you will always get your electric field. The next topic that we'll now understand is the divergence. Now, divergence is always taken on a vector field. Now, divergence of a vector field, where v is a vector field here, and v has three components, v1, v2 and v3. In Cartesian coordinate, they can be written as v1i, v2j and v3k. And the del operator can be written as like this, and you get a scalar. So divergence of a vector function always gives you a scalar function. Now question is, what is the physical significance of divergence of a vector function? Let us turn to electrodynamics to understand that. Remember Gauss law? Now Gauss law says that if you have a particular distribution of charge inside some closed surface, okay, so this is the surface S, then the total electric flux will be the electric field produced by the charge, and the dot product is done on the surface. Okay, then total electric flux is equals to q by epsilon naught. It means the total electric flux is dependent on the charge inside the surface. So what is this part? This part is the total electric flux. Now what is the divergence of E? Agreed? So if I do del dot electric field, then the physical meaning of divergence of electric field is, this is flux per unit volume. See, this is the total flux for the entire volume. Okay, so integration d dot E dot ds is the flux for the entire volume enclosed, and del dot E is only flux for unit volume. So this is the physical meaning of divergence in your electrostatics. So what is the use of it? The use is, if you are given a particular electric field configuration, okay, say either in Cartesian, spherical coordinate or polar, if you do divergence of that, then you will get a scalar function, because divergence of all the vectors will give you a number. A number means you will get a scalar function, and this scalar function will represent the flux per unit volume. So you need to remember this, because we will continue this part when we'll study the Gauss divergence theorem. Now let us move to curl of a vector. So curl of a vector field is represented by this determinant. So V is a vector field whose components are v1, v2, v3. That is, the vector V can be written as this. So this is v1, v2, v3. that are written as the component. When you take curl of a vector field, you get another vector. How do you know? Because the answer contains the component I, j and k. So curl of a vector field gives you a vector. Now question is, what is the physical significance of curl of a vector field? So curl of a vector field A is the line integral per unit area. Now how do we understand that? Now remember line integral. So if you take a force F and if you dot product it with a particular distance, say dx in the x direction, okay, then this part is called line integral in the x direction, and this will give you the work done. Similarly, this is for 1D. In 3D, you can have a force configuration that can look anything like this. So you see a rotating force. The force is in circular direction. So if I take a circle or if I take any closed curve, then integration around the closed curve f dot dr will give me the total work done around the closed curve. Agreed? Now curl is line integral per unit area. So for example, the area here is the area enclosed by this curve. So if this is the curve C, then the area enclosed is the area A. So line integral per unit area gives you curl, that is del cross F. So what is the physical meaning of curl of a vector field? The curl of a vector field is the line integral per unit area. Given the area is enclosed inside the curve C around which the line integral is calculated. Let us move to understand Laplacian. So Laplacian is a mathematical operator that is represented by del square. How do we get Laplacian? When you do the dot product with a gradient of a scalar function. So the dot product, so the divergence of gradient, so you can see it here, the divergence of gradient of a scalar function is Laplacian of the scalar function. Note that f here is a scalar function, so keep that in mind, that f here is a scalar function. Now here I have represented Laplacian in Cartesian coordinate. However, you can have Laplacian even in spherical coordinate system. Let us look at a physical example of Laplacian. So what is electric field? You know that electric field is given by the minus of gradient of a scalar field, that is potential, and this scalar field and this scalar function depends only on function r. It does not depend on r and theta. Now you can also take the dot product of a electric field. Remember we discussed earlier that if you take divergence of an electric field, that is dot product of the del operator and the E, so this is called divergence. This gives you flux per unit volume. So when you do divergence of electric field, you find that the electric field itself can be represented as a gradient of a function, okay, and this is a scalar function. So what happens? So you get here a minus of Laplacian of vector function of scalar function, and this scalar function is a potential. As I said, the Laplacian here is written in your Cartesian coordinate, but when you apply this Laplacian on this potential, you cannot use Cartesian coordinate because r here is the spherical polar coordinate r. Hence you need to write the Laplacian in polar coordinate. So let us write how the Laplacian looks in the polar coordinate. So Laplacian in polar coordinate looks like, so this is the Laplacian in your spherical polar coordinate. Now how to know when to use this type of Laplacian. Whenever the Laplacian has to act on a function, a scalar function, and if that scalar function depends on r, theta and phi, then you need to use the spherical polar coordinate. However, if you have a scalar function that depends on Cartesian coordinate x, y and z, then you can use the Laplacian in the Cartesian coordinates. So Laplacian in the Cartesian coordinate has been given here. Now let us look at some of the properties of gradient, divergence and curl. Now curl of a gradient of scalar function is 0. Let us try to understand why. You see, this curl always acts on a rotating force. So remember, curl always acts on a rotating force. Any force f dash which can be written as a gradient of some scalar function phi is not a rotating force. Let me give you some example. The electric field produced by a point charge is a diverging field because the electric field acts along the radial direction. You can also see that electric field acts on the radial direction when you look at the formula of electric field. So what is the formula of electric field? You have some constant 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 q by r square, and this electric field will depend on r cap. So this says that electric field produced by a point charge always acts in a radial direction, and this type of electric field can be written as a gradient of some scalar potential or scalar function v. So any force or any field which can be written as a gradient of a particular function, that field is not at all a rotating field. So gradient of a function here represents some force f which is not rotating. So if this is not rotating, then when curl will act on this non-rotating force, it will fetch you an answer 0. So remember, curl of a non-rotating force is always 0. So that's why we can say curl of a, now every non-rotating force can be written as a gradient of some scalar phi. So for this type of forces, the curl is 0. Let us see what do you mean by divergence of curl of v. V is some function. If curl of v exists, so if I say that curl of a function v exists, then v must be rotating. Now anything which is rotating, its divergence does not exist. For example, divergence will only exist for forces which are non-rotating. Remember the electrostatic force? The electrostatic force produced by a point charge is a diverging field because it starts from a point and goes and diverges till infinity. It goes out from a point till infinity. So these type of forces or electric fields are called diverging field. For this type of diverging field, there are quantities called as divergence of E. So for this type of field, divergence of E exists. Now divergence of E was also called as the flux per unit volume, because only for the field which is diverging we can define something called as flux lines which are piercing the field. But for a rotating field, so consider I am drawing a rotating field. So consider this electric field is rotating. So if this electric field is rotating around a circle, then if I assume any surface, any Gaussian surface S, then is there any flux coming out of this force? No, there is no flux coming out of this surface because the field itself is rotating. Hence, if V is a rotating force, then curl exists, and if curl exists for any function v, then divergence of that function of that curl will be 0. So this is the physical meaning of divergence of curl of v. Agreed? So let me state one more fact before we continue. As I discussed here, I considered a rotating electric field. Now you would ask me, do we really have a rotating electric field that is in a circular direction? The answer is yes, we do have. Let me give you an example. Consider you take a circular wire, and you have a magnet. Consider you have a bar magnet with a south pole and a north pole. When you bring the magnet towards this wire, then there is a EMF produced in the wire, because of which a current runs in the wire. So if the current runs in the wire, then obviously the electric field that is driving the electrons must be circular, and it depends on the shape of the wire. Hence you see here a circular electric field. This type of electric field occur when we have a changing magnetic flux through a wire. We'll discuss this electric field more on later part of the lecture. So in electrodynamics, we have two types of electric field. One electric field produced by the static charges. This type of electric field has divergence. The another type of electric field are produced by changing magnetic flux, and this type of electric field will have a curl. As you look at the Maxwell equation, I will emphasize on this point. Let us move further. Now we will discuss line integral. What do you mean by line integral? Remember, for any given force F, the line integral with distance or line integral with displacement will give you work done. Line integral is not equals to the area under the curve. The area under the curve was the definite integral. So line integral is not area under the curve, because line integral has an extra dot product here that is not available in the definite integral. Similarly, you might have encountered line integral in Ampere's law. For example, Ampere's law states that if you have a current carrying straight wire, so consider this is a wire which carries a current I, then Ampere's law states that this current carrying wire will produce a circular magnetic field. So the magnetic field here is circular. So you can see we do have circular fields in physics. So we have circular magnetic field, and the line integral of this magnetic field along this curve or along this circle is equal to mu naught magnetic permeability into the current. So this is the example of a line integral. So we do have line integral in electrodynamics. Now, line integral with forces, they give work done. But when I say line integral of magnetic field with dr, we do not have any precise term for this integration b dot dr. Okay, like we have a precise term for integration f dot dr that we call as work done. So we don't have any precise term for this part. But we know that the line integral evaluated along this circle that I am putting green. So the line integral evaluated along this circle will depend on the value of current I that passes through this circle. Agreed? Now, remember I also discussed that curl of a field is its line integral per unit area. Hence, if you have a magnetic field whose line integral exists, then this magnetic field will have a curl, because you can see the magnetic field is circular and the line integral is taken along that circle. Hence, for any circular field we can define this curl. Let's move further. Now we'll study about Gauss divergence theorem. So we'll try to understand what Gauss divergence theorem is. So if you go back to our discussion on divergence, I said that divergence of an electric field gives us what? It gives us flux per unit volume. Now if I say that it gives flux per unit volume, what volume and what field? So take any surface that encloses a charge q, then the total flux is represented by integration E dot ds. This is a surface integral, and this surface integral is taken all over this surface S. This surface S encloses a volume. I'm shading in green. This is the volume enclosed by this surface S. Now what is del dot E? So divergence of E is flux per unit volume. Then if I have a quantity that is flux per unit volume, how can I calculate the total flux? Only when I can multiply the total volume with this flux per unit volume. It means if I take volume integration of the flux per unit volume, so it is equal to multiplying volume to the del dot E. So multiplying volume to del dot E will give me the total flux. Now volume integral is actually near to a triple integral. So what is this quantity? This quantity is my total flux. So if this quantity is my total flux and this quantity is also my total flux, so these two quantities must be related. Hence I can say that, so if instead of F I consider this E, and if I consider this E, then this part gives me the total flux and this part also gives me total flux, because divergence of E is the flux per unit volume, and when I take volume integral, then I am calculating the total flux. This is Gauss divergence theorem. Gauss divergence theorem, it relates a volume integral with a surface integral. So we will see a lot of application of Gauss divergence theorem in our further discussion of this advanced electricity and magnetism course. So let us move to another theorem. Now we'll discuss Stokes theorem. When I was discussing curl, remember I stated that curl of any rotating field is the line integral per unit area. So what is my curl? My curl is line integral per unit area. But which area? So consider you have a force F. Agreed. Consider you have a force F, and this force, say, is a rotating force around this particular rectangle. So you have this force moving like this. So it's a rotating force. Now given F is rotating force and this is my rectangular curve C, then I can easily calculate a quantity called as F dot dr over this curve C. Over this curve C. But it is given that del cross F is your line integral per unit area. So if I take a unit area here, then del cross F is the line integral around this particular curve that encloses the unit area. Agreed? So if I go on adding curl, so if I have curl in this unit area, now consider I take another unit area near to that first part. Okay, so consider I have another unit area and the curl also goes anti-clockwise here. So it goes like this, like this, like this, and like this. So interestingly, you find that these two parts, they cancel each other. These two parts, they cancel each other. Similarly, if I go on adding all the curl per unit area, then what will happen? I will get the total line integral for this entire area. Now the total line integral for this entire area will depend only on the line integral on the particular curve. So if I do, so since curl is my line integral per unit area, then total line integral is multiplying this curl, that is line integral with unit area, to the total area. So this is same as taking the integration over the area dA. So what is area dA? Area dA is the area enclosed in the curl. So this also gives my line integral per unit area. This gives my total line integral. This also gives me my total line integral. So these two things must be connected. So this is the idea behind Stokes theorem. So this part is the line integral, that is a full line integral. This part is also the full line integral, and hence they are also same. But remember one thing, this is a line integral and this is a surface integral. Even though this is a surface integral, the value is same to a line integral, because the curl that is inside the surface integral is nothing but line integral per unit area. So if you multiply this line integral per unit area with total area, you will get total line integral, which is, you can see, is on the right hand side. Hence in this way these two quantities are related. Now in the next lecture we'll talk about energy stored in various field, like the energy stored in electric field and the energy stored in magnetic field.